The late afternoon sun baked the town in dusty gold when Sam Everett stopped in his tracks. A sound cut through the chatter of the market crowd, a thin, desperate cry from behind the old diner. Setting down his bag of tomatoes, Sam followed the sound into the alley. There, near a rusted dumpster, lay a frail bundle of spotted fur no bigger than his hand. Ribs showed with each trembling breath, its tiny claws scraped weakly against the ground as if fighting death itself. Sam froze. Tufts on its ears, black-banded tail, golden eyes burning with fear. Not a house cat, a bobcat kitten. 3, maybe 4 weeks old, alone, starving, a cry that was both hunger and fear, louder than any siren. Sam's pulse quickened. He'd rehabbed owls, foxes, even fawns, but never like this. One truth struck hard. If he walked away, the kitten would not see morning. Sam's hands shook as he tore open his butcher paper parcel, the chuck steak meant for his dinner. He crouched low, holding a thumb-sized strip forward. The kitten hissed, its voice comical yet tragic, tiny fangs bared as if to fend off the world. Sam stayed still, heart thudding, his arm extended like a bridge of trust. The smell of blood carried on the breeze, and instinct overcame fear. The bobcat lunged, needle-sharp teeth piercing flesh, pulling with a ferocity born of survival. A growl vibrated from its frail chest, too small for such power, but fierce enough to make Sam's eyes sting. Each bite looked like a war fought for minutes more of life. The kitten wasn't eating, it was fighting. Sam swallowed hard. He saw in that bundle of fur not weakness, but relentless will. It was a life demanding one chance, and he had just given it one.
Before Sam could blink, the kitten clamped the strip of beef in its jaws and dragged it away. It vanished behind a heap of overturned crates, swallowed by shadow. Silence filled the alley. Sam stayed kneeling, staring at the space where golden eyes had glimmered, heart hammering with awe and sorrow. The kitten had survived another hour, but its trembling body haunted him. He whispered into the emptiness, "Fight, little one." A crow cackled overhead as if mocking his hope. For a long moment, Sam waited, but the spotted fur never returned. Gathering his groceries, he walked home in a fog. He knew what the book said, wild animals must remain wild. But as night fell, Sam's chest ached with the sound of those cries. He replayed the ferocity in that kitten's tiny growls. Deep down, he knew this wasn't finished. Something had begun in that alley. The next morning, Sam couldn't stay away. He returned with formula designed for carnivores, syringes, and more meat strips. His boots crunched softly on the gravel as he peered into the alley. At first, silence. Then, a faint rustle. The kitten emerged from behind the crates, eyes sharper, though its body was still skeletal thin. Its ears twitched, nose quivering as it smelled the brown bag in Sam's hands. Sam tore the meat into slivers, laying them gently on the ground. The bobcat crept forward, one paw at a time, then snatched the pieces before darting back to safety. Sam smiled, relief washing over him. This wasn't pity, it was survival, progress. After the last strip was gone, the kitten lingered, sitting just far enough to keep him guessing. Sam knelt, extending his hand, palm down. The air between them quivered with unspoken possibility. Would fear win or trust?
Sam's breath caught. The bobcat lowered its head and, against instinct, padded forward. Its tiny nose brushed his fingertips, whiskers tickling his skin. Then, in a moment that stole his breath, the kitten pressed its forehead against his hand. A vibration hummed softly, purring. Not like a tame cat's comfort, but a fragile heartbeat of trust. Sam's eyes blurred as he scratched gently behind the ears. Juno. The name whispered itself into his mind, unbidden but perfect. Juno batted at his fingers once, clumsily, like a kitten playing for the first time. His chest tightened with conflicting truths. This wild creature needed distance to survive. Yet here she was, offering him something no textbook prepared him for. Connection. Sam whispered, "You've got fight, Juno." For a brief instant, the alley didn't feel like ruin. It felt like hope, fragile and fleeting, pressed into the palm of his hand. "Sam Everett, what in the world are you doing back here?" The voice startled him. Sam jerked his hand back, and in that blink, Juno vanished into shadows. Standing at the alley's edge was Martha Jenkins, his longtime neighbor, arms folded, eyebrows raised. She leaned around him, eyes widening. "Was that a bobcat?" Sam nodded, his chest still racing. Martha shook her head, torn between disbelief and worry. "You can't be serious, Sam. You'll get yourself in trouble, feeding a predator like that." Sam straightened, defensive. "She's starving. Alone." Martha frowned. "Wild animals aren't meant for back alleys and kitchen scraps. Leave it be or the state will come knocking." Her voice softened, though. "You've got a good heart, but don't let it break you." She walked away, shaking her head. Sam turned back to the crates, empty now. His heart sank. Had Martha's warning come too late?
That evening, Sam stood on the porch of his weathered farmhouse on the edge of the forest, staring at the timberline. The echoes of Juno's cries clung to him. He couldn't leave her to the dumpsters, not with hunger gnawing her bones. He gathered scrap wood and wire mesh from his barn and set to work, sweat glistening in the setting sun. By lantern light, he built a small enclosure. Straw bedding, a den box, branches for climbing, grass woven into the corners to soften impact. It wasn't much, but it was safe. A halfway home between tragedy and freedom. As he tightened the last nail, he whispered, "For you, Juno." Tomorrow he'd bring her here, if she survived the night. The cicadas sang and the forest smelled of pine and smoke. Sam's chest swelled with a mix of dread and determination. Tonight, he had chosen. Juno would not die alone. By dusk, Sam returned to the alley with a live trap baited with meat. His pulse quickened as the sun dipped and shadows stretched. Hours ticked until, snap. A soft hiss echoed beneath the towel he draped over the trap. He whispered, "Easy, Juno, easy." The kitten thrashed, but when Sam carried the crate into his truck, her tiny body curled into a trembling ball. Back at the farmhouse, Sam transferred her into the enclosure. Her eyes blazed defiance as she crouched in the straw, growling low, ears flattened. Sam sat outside the mesh, whispering steady words. "You're safe now." The night was restless. Juno's cries pierced the dark, echoing through the trees. Sam checked her again and again, every hour. Each hiss reminded him she was wild. Each breath reassured him she was alive. He leaned against the barn wall, exhausted but resolute. For tonight, the battle was survival.
Days passed in tense rhythms. At first, Juno refused the bottle and meat strips unless Sam left the pen, but hunger was merciless, and soon she devoured the food, tiny paws steadying the bowl. Sam marked every ounce gained in a notebook, his smile returning each morning as the numbers climbed. Then came the first spark of play. One afternoon, Sam spotted her crouched low, eyes locked on a fluttering leaf. With a wiggle of her hindquarters, she pounced, clumsy but fierce. Sam laughed, pride swelling. Later, he caught her perched on a log, surveying her pen with regal authority. She hissed when he approached, which made him prouder still. Wild meant hope. Sam scribbled in his notebook, "Strong spirit, not broken." For the first time in years, his house, once echoing with loneliness, was alive with sounds of life. Each growl, each playful paw was a promise of tomorrow. One evening, as the sun dipped red, Sam returned from hauling water to find the pen disturbingly silent. Panic struck. The gate was ajar, his own latch undone. Heart slamming, he searched the enclosure. Empty straw, overturned bowl, claw marks against the dirt. Juno was gone. Sam tore through the trees, calling softly, scanning shadows. Only silence answered. He fell to his knees, fear crushing him.
Had he lost her forever to coyotes, or worse, to the hunger she wasn't yet strong enough to fight? That night, Sam sat on the porch, lantern flickering, staring into the endless dark. Each creak of branches mocked him. He whispered, "Come back, Juno." His chest hollowed with guilt and dread. And just as despair began to swallow him whole, the faintest rustle stirred at the tree line. Two golden eyes glimmered. She had returned, but this time she was carrying something in her jaws.
The two golden eyes shone from the tree line, fierce and wild. Sam held his breath. Juno padded forward, her ribs still sharp beneath her fur. In her jaws hung a limp field mouse, freshly caught. She dropped it at the edge of the porch, watching Sam as if testing him. His throat tightened. This was no random return. This was instinct, an exchange, a bond forged in hunger, in survival. Sam whispered, "You're stronger than I thought." Juno backed away, tail twitching, but her eyes lingered. That night, Sam didn't write in his notebook. He etched the moment into memory. A kitten still half-starved had chosen not to vanish, but to share her first catch. It was her way of saying, "I can fight now." And for Sam, it was a re-hook into hope. If she could hunt, she could live. If she trusted him, she might yet thrive. Word traveled fast in small towns. Martha Jenkins, basket of eggs in her arms, caught Sam outside the diner days later. Her voice carried both scolding and worry. "You've still got that bobcat, don't you?" Sam froze. Martha's eyes softened. "Sam, I know your heart, but people are talking. Some say you're taming a predator. If the wrong ears hear, it won't be pretty." Sam clenched his jaw. He wanted to tell her Juno wasn't tame, she was learning to be wild, but he only nodded. Martha sighed and touched his arm. "Just be careful. You're one report away from trouble." That evening, as Sam placed Juno's meal in her enclosure, the warning gnawed at him. The growl she gave, feral and proud, reminded him Martha was right. This wasn't a pet. She was fire in fur, and fire, if noticed, could burn everything down around them both.
The warning came true faster than Sam feared. One morning, as he hauled buckets of water, a county truck crunched up his gravel drive. Out stepped Wildlife Officer Rick Dalton, broad-shouldered, sharp-eyed, clipboard in hand. His gaze swept the farmhouse, then locked on the enclosure. "Heard you're keeping something you shouldn't, Everett." Sam's stomach tightened. Rick stepped closer, the authority in his boots louder than his voice. "Bobcats don't belong in backyards, they belong in the wild or in state facilities." Juno hissed from her perch, ears flat, teeth bared. Rick raised a brow. "She's imprinting. That makes her dangerous. I could seize her today." Sam's hands balled to fists. "She's alive because of me. Give me time, just until she's strong enough." Rick studied him, a long, tense moment. Finally he muttered, "One mistake, Everett, and she's gone." He turned, gravel spitting under his tires. The battle had just begun. That evening, Sam sat on his porch, Juno's growls echoing from the pen. Rick's words haunted him. One mistake, and she's gone. The law was on the officer's side. One anonymous call, and Juno would be taken, her fate sealed in a cage, or worse. Sam rubbed his temples, staring at the dark timberline. "Maybe Martha's right. Maybe I'm the fool," he whispered. Then came the sound that silenced his doubts. Juno's steady yowl, not of hunger, but of restless longing for the forest. He remembered the first cry behind the dumpster, how close she had been to death. If he had walked away, she wouldn't exist now. His fists tightened. "I won't let you be another statistic." He walked to her enclosure, crouched low, eyes level with hers. She blinked slowly, ears twitching. That trust was fragile, but real. and Sam swore he wouldn't betray it, not for anyone.
2 weeks later, the forest tested his vow. A wildfire sparked by lightning swept through dry grasslands, racing toward Sam's property. The horizon glowed red, smoke curling into a choking sky. Sam ran to Juno's enclosure, coughing, eyes stinging. She paced wildly, snarling at the acrid wind. "Hold on, girl." He grabbed her crate, struggling with trembling hands. Branches overhead crackled as embers rained down. His lungs burned. Juno's claws scraped against metal as he lifted her into the truck bed. The fire roared closer, consuming fence posts like matchsticks. For one terrifying instant, Sam thought they wouldn't outrun it. But his battered pickup lurched down the road, flames in the rearview mirror. Hours later, when the firebreak held, Sam collapsed beside her crate, shaking. Juno crouched inside, golden eyes fierce but alive. He whispered hoarsely, "I'd burn with you before I'd abandon you." And in that vow, fire met fire. The next morning, Sam stood in the smoky ruin of his yard. Blackened grass, charred beams, and a half-melted trough lay scattered like bones. The enclosure was gone. But Juno crouched beside him, alive, her coat dusted with ash. She licked a paw calmly, as if mocking destruction itself. Sam's throat closed. He had nearly lost everything, but she had endured. That day he rebuilt, stronger, larger, closer to the forest's edge. Sweat poured, hands blistered, but with each hammer strike he reclaimed not just a cage, but a promise. Martha arrived, gasping at the devastation. "Sam, you're mad, rebuilding after this." He only smiled grimly. "She made it, so will I." As dusk fell, Juno leapt onto her new perch, surveying her blackened kingdom like a queen returned to her throne. Sam whispered hoarsely, "You're meant for the wild, not walls. And one day, Juno, you'll walk out free." Sam knew the wildfire had accelerated the timeline. Juno was growing stronger, restless. He began changing his role, from caretaker to teacher. No more bowls of cut meat. He hid food in hollow logs, dragged scent trails across her enclosure, released live mice for her to stalk. At first clumsy, she pounced too early, scattering leaves. But by the week's end, her leaps grew precise, her kills swift. Sam watched from the shadows, pride aching like a wound. Every growl was deeper, every step more assured. Yet she still met his gaze through the mesh, eyes sharp with recognition. Sam scribbled in his notebook, "She knows me, but belongs out there." That night, as coyotes howled in the distance, Juno answered with her first wild yowl, raw, powerful, echoing into the trees. Sam shivered. She was no longer the starving kitten. She was becoming what she was born to be. Officer Rick Dalton came back, boots crunching over Sam's driveway. His eyes swept the rebuilt enclosure, then narrowed. "You didn't quit," he muttered. Sam stood tall. "She's almost ready, just a little longer." Rick studied Juno, now sleek and muscled, her coat gleaming under the morning sun. She hissed, teeth flashing like ivory knives. Rick smirked. "That hiss? That's wild. Maybe you've pulled it off." But his eyes hardened. "If she harms livestock, Everett, it's on your head. The neighbors already complain about shadows in their fields." Sam bristled. "When she leaves, she'll stay wild. No porch, no people." Rick sighed, scratching his jaw. "Then prove it. Release her the right way. Soft release in the state forest." He jabbed his clipboard. "Otherwise, she won't get that chance." The words stung, but Sam nodded. He would not let Dalton's doubt define Juno's fate. She deserved her own ending. Autumn painted the woods in crimson and gold. Sam walked each day with heavier steps, knowing the goodbye was near.
He expanded her enclosure to touch the tree line, leaving one gate unopened. At dusk, he placed food farther into the woods, teaching her to follow scent beyond wire. Juno's eyes glowed in the twilight, sharp, restless. Martha visited, arms crossed. "So this is it? You're letting her go?" Sam smiled sadly. "She was never mine to keep." That evening he lingered by the pen, hand on the latch, whispering through the mesh, "You're ready." Juno pressed her forehead once against the bars, the faintest echo of that first trust years ago. Sam's throat ached. Tomorrow, the gate would open. Tomorrow, the wild would claim her back. He only prayed she would remember, not as a pet, not as property, but as the man who gave her back the world. Dawn came cold and misty. Sam's breath clouded as he unlatched the enclosure gate. The forest yawned open beyond, damp leaves shimmering with dew. Juno crouched low, ears twitching, every muscle taut. For a long moment, she didn't move. Sam's heart pounded. Would she step forward or retreat? Then, with a slow, regal stride, she crossed the threshold. She paused halfway, glancing back. Their eyes locked, golden to human blue. Recognition flared. Sam whispered, "Go on, girl." And she did. Silent, powerful, her spotted form slipped into the timberline, swallowed by mist. Sam sank to his knees, chest hollow. He had saved her life, only to let her go. Yet he knew this was the truest love a man could give a wild thing: freedom. Still, as the forest swallowed her, his heart whispered a selfish hope that one day, when he least expected, Juno might return. Days became weeks, and weeks slipped into months. Sam's yard felt strangely hollow without Juno's presence. The enclosure stood open, empty, its wire mesh rusting beneath autumn rains. Each time he carried water buckets, his instinct was to glance toward the perch where she once crouched, but there was nothing, only leaves drifting on the wind. Nights were quieter too, almost too quiet. Sam would sit on the porch, listening to owls and coyotes, straining for the rasping cry of a bobcat. It never came. Martha stopped by one evening, noticing the vacancy in his eyes. "She's gone, Sam. That's what's right." He nodded, but said nothing. Deep inside, he wrestled with pride and grief, the paradox of saving a life only to set it free. The silence was heavy, but in his heart he clung to a fragile hope. Maybe, just maybe, Juno would one day return. Winter arrived with its icy grip. One morning, Sam trudged outside to split firewood and froze. Near the creek bed, fresh tracks patterned the snow. Not deer, not fox. The paw prints were larger, with the distinct round shape and staggered gait of a bobcat. Sam crouched, brushing his fingers lightly over the impressions. His chest tightened. It had been months since he last saw her, but every instinct whispered, "Juno." He followed the trail into the pines until it vanished into deeper snowdrifts. He stood there for a long moment, heart pounding against the cold. She had survived the fall hunts, the fire-scorched forest, the long nights. She was alive, thriving. Sam whispered into the still air, "Good girl." Then, turning back toward the farmhouse, he carried more than wood in his arms. He carried proof that wildness was not the end of their story. It was only the beginning.
Through the spring and summer, Sam caught only glimpses, a spotted shape slipping through the underbrush, a shadow moving against the last light of dusk. Once, from his porch, he thought he saw golden eyes gleaming just beyond the tree line. He stood motionless, scarcely daring to breathe, but she vanished before he could call her name. To his neighbors, it was nothing but stories. "You're seeing things, Everett," Rick Dalton scoffed, but Sam knew better. He felt it in the raised hairs at the back of his neck, in the silent hush when the forest paused around him. Juno hadn't forgotten him. She was watching. He smiled into the dark, whispering, "Stay wild, girl. That's what I wanted for you." Yet deep down, the hope burned brighter. Someday she might come not as a shadow, but as flesh and fur, stepping back into his life when he least expected. Time marched forward. Sam busied himself with chores, patching fences, tending the small vegetable patch behind his farmhouse. The wildfire scars healed too, green shoots pushing through blackened soil, nature proving itself resilient. Yet loneliness lingered. At night he sometimes heard bobcat cries echoing faintly from the valley, raw and wild. He would pause mid-step, listening, imagining her voice among them. The memory of Juno's eyes haunted him, those golden flames of recognition. One night, while Martha shared coffee at his kitchen table, she noticed his silence. "You're waiting on her, aren't you?" He chuckled softly. "Guess I am." Martha's eyes softened. "If she comes back, it'll be her choice. That's the only way it'll mean something." Sam nodded, knowing she was right. Still, every creak of the porch boards, every rustle in the brush made his heart lift. Waiting wasn't weakness. It was faith. And faith was its own strength.
It happened on a frost-tipped November night. Sam stirred from sleep at the faintest sound. Scratch, thump, a shuffle on the porch. His pulse spiked. He grabbed his lantern and crept toward the door. When he opened it, cold air rushed in, but the sight before him stole his breath. There, in the halo of light, stood Juno. No longer the lean kitten he once nursed, she was magnificent, nearly the size of a large dog, her coat thick and glistening. Her amber eyes locked on him, calm yet commanding. At her paws lay a rabbit, freshly killed. Sam's throat tightened. She had brought him a gift. Behind her, movement stirred. 3 smaller shapes, tumbling, curious, their coats still spotted. Kittens. Her kittens. Sam dropped to his knees, tears blurring his vision. "You remembered," he whispered. Juno stepped forward, pressing her forehead against his chin, just as she had years before. Sam reached out, trembling hands brushing Juno's fur. She leaned into his touch for a fleeting moment before pulling back, her gaze sharp, protective. One of the kittens crept forward, pawing at his bootlace before darting back. Sam laughed softly through tears. "They're beautiful," he murmured. Juno dropped the rabbit at his feet, a clear offering. Sam understood instantly. This wasn't just food, it was her way of saying thank you. Thank you for the chance to live, to hunt, to raise her young. He picked up the rabbit, then set it gently at the edge of the trees, offering it back to her. She blinked slowly, as if approving. For a long time, man and bobcat simply existed together under the porch light, a circle completed. Finally, with a low chirp, she gathered her young and melted into the forest. Sam stood trembling, heart split between joy and sorrow.
For days after, Sam walked with a lightness in his step. He had seen her alive, strong, a mother. He had touched her fur once more. Each morning he checked the edge of the woods, half hoping for another visit. And one night she returned. This time she didn't step onto the porch. She sat at the tree line, her kittens at her side, watching him in silence. Their eyes reflected green under the moonlight. Sam didn't move closer. He only raised his hand in a quiet gesture of respect. Juno blinked, slow and steady, the same language of trust she had given him years before. Then she turned, leading her young back into the shadows. Sam felt no sting of absence this time. It was enough. She had not forgotten. She had chosen to show him her family, and that was the highest honor the wild could ever grant. Word spread again.
Neighbors whispered of bobcat sightings, livestock left untouched, rabbits gone from fields. Officer Rick Dalton arrived one morning, arms crossed. "She's still around, isn't she?" Sam met his gaze, unflinching. "She's hunting what she's supposed to. She's no threat." Rick hesitated, then gave a rare nod. "Guess you proved me wrong, Everett." For the first time, his voice lacked hostility. He turned to leave but paused. Not many men would have fought this hard for a wild thing. "Just don't forget, she belongs to the forest now." Sam smiled faintly. "That's where she's always belonged." As Rick's truck disappeared down the road, Sam exhaled. The fight was finally over. No more threats, no more warnings. Juno was free, her place secured, her story alive. And Sam realized he too was free, no longer haunted by doubt, but carried by the peace of having done right even against impossible odds.
Years later, Sam would still sit on his porch, watching sunsets over the timberline. He rarely spoke of Juno, but the marks she left were everywhere. In the rebuilt enclosure, now covered in vines, in the journals filled with notes about her growth, in the claw scratches faintly etched on the porch rail. Sometimes he told children at the diner about the bobcat who returned with her own family, their eyes widening in wonder. Martha, now older and slower, once smiled as he spoke. "They'll remember, Sam. That story will outlive both of us." And she was right. Juno's survival wasn't just hers. It was proof of resilience, proof that kindness could ripple beyond years, beyond species. Sam realized then he hadn't just saved a life. He had helped shape a legacy. The wild remembered, the forest remembered, and somewhere out there, her bloodline still roamed. On his last golden evening before winter's first snow, Sam sat quietly, cane across his knees. The forest glowed with fading light. Then from the shadows, a movement stirred. For a heartbeat, his chest tightened with hope. A bobcat emerged, not Juno, but a younger one, strong and lithe, spots fading into adulthood. It paused at the edge of the yard, studying him with curious amber eyes. Sam smiled, his voice breaking the hush. So, she did leave a piece of herself behind. The young bobcat flicked its ears, then bounded into the trees, vanishing. Sam leaned back, tears on his cheeks, peace in his chest. The circle was complete. What began with one starving kitten by a dumpster had ended with generations thriving in the wild. He whispered to the twilight, "Thank you, Juno." And as the forest echoed with life, Sam knew kindness was the truest inheritance of all.